And we're learning more on the tariff reprieve for some imported goods. The White House saying the 125% tariff will not apply to electronic imports. But now some business owners may be feeling left out. NewsNation's Alicia Nieves has been following the tariff changes very closely. Alicia, let's start with the numbers. How much money is being saved?
A good chunk of change, and for almost every American, especially when you realize how reliant we are on these electronics. You think of cell phones, 98% of American adults have a cell phone. 91% of them are smartphones, and 95% of U.S. households, more broadly, have computers. And so when you look at the cost that we're expected to increase as a result of these tariffs going into place, you're looking at double or more, right? And when you think of an iPhone, that was like roughly $1,400, $1,500 average price. They were looking at probably $3,500 with these tariffs being in place. Obviously, that's a big savings for a lot of people, and notably, people who often barely can afford the iPhone as it stands. You look at 55% of Americans who have a smartphone are on a payment plan for that smartphone. There's almost no way they would have been able to, get the cost increase had they broken their phone to be able to afford with the tariffs in place. So this is obviously a bailout for the average American person. There's a lot of criticism, though, coming that this is also a bailout for Trump supporters, the likes of, Bezos and, Elon Musk, and notably Apple's, a founder or head Tim Cook. He donated $1 million individually from his personal money to Trump's inauguration. And so there's just a conflict of interest potentially here with Democrats, at least, being really concerned about that.
And like you mentioned, it just shows how dependent U.S. manufacturing is on the global stage. So when we talk about this, how will it affect so many consumers? And where does Apple specifically get their parts from?
Apple is a great example of what our supply chains, especially for big tech, look like right now. Most of its components come from China. 90% of its most popular item, the iPhone, is assembled and produced in China. 80% of iPads, more than 50% of the MacBooks, showing why it had such wide exposure and why its stock kind of pulled back pretty dramatically when these tariffs were initially in place. Apple stock is down still about 10% as a result of its impact, and that's with the reprieve, with the exemption being, mentioned on Friday. And so it's not just Apple, though. This, again, is an example. You got companies like NVIDIA, Microsoft, all have taken pretty significant hits because their supply chains are exposed to these tariffs now with China.
So this is a relief to the tech industry,
yes,
no doubt. But some businesses are feeling left out. Why?
You have a lot of other sectors that are impacted by what we import from China. For example, the auto sector, a lot of our electronic vehicles, components come from China. They're not getting a reprieve here, and so the cost of EVs are going to be going up. When you look at apparel, 30% of all U.S. apparel comes from China. And so that's a sector that's still being hit and being felt. You've got Nike, for example, 25% hit to its stock because of the exposure to China. But it's not just these major billion-dollar corporations. It's the backbone of America.
Yeah.
It is your small businesses. They're oftentimes not tech companies. They are your local clothing store, your toy store, your local furniture store. These are products that we often import from China that now will see this 125, 145%, tariff on top of it. And these are businesses that margins are already tight. They try not to pass it on to the consumer, but might now have to do so.
All right, Alicia Nieves, great breakdown. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.